It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Has this thing literally changed the automotive industry to where we should not just be comparing Teslas to a BMW? Mm-hmm. What about a Honda Accord?
Yeah, this one kind of blew my mind when you said this, because when I had just thought about Tesla being a luxury car. It's something that people in the luxury market would want to buy. But you're right. We just showed that conclusively a Tesla is more economically viable than entry-level BMW, pretty much hands down. And it was such a wide margin that if it does actually begin to compete with like a Honda Accord, well, that changes the whole dynamic of how we even think about the automobile.
So let's I think we have to talk about performance specs. What do you expect out of these vehicles? It was very unique when we talked about the BMW. What happens when we talk about a very reliable, this is considered, because let's face it, there are cars, and I'm guilty of this. If I see you driving certain cars, I'm like, bad decision maker, good decision maker, bad decision. Maybe that's mean that I feel that way, but when I see somebody driving, I'm like, ooh, I hope they're rich because they're bad decision makers. But Honda Accord has always been one, when you look at Toyota Camrys, Honda Accords, you always think, you know what, that's probably, and by the way, research from the updated version of The Millionaire Next Door that Sarah came out with, Dr. Stanley's daughter, it very much showed that Toyota and Honda hold a high esteem, a high place in a lot of the purchasing power for millionaires. So I've actually had a very good opinion of Honda Accord purchasers. What happens when we look at the stats?
So we're going to look at the Honda Accord EXL, so that's one of the nice, the 2.0T, versus the Tesla Model 3 short range. So we're not going to do the all-wheel drive Tesla. We're not going to do the long-range version. We're going to just look at sort of what I would say the entry-level Model 3.
Yeah, the affordable. Right? And by the way, we did the EXL 4-cylinder. We didn't do the V6 engine. We did the 4-cylinder because probably if you're somebody who's buying an electric vehicle, you're more concerned about the efficiency than the straight-up power. Now, remember, Tesla, you're going to get power. They don't make slow cars, but it is, I think that's how we landed on the fact that we wanted nice, but we wanted it to be efficient, if you're wondering how we chose the Honda version.
So from a horsepower perspective, the Honda Accord has 252 horsepower. The Tesla Model 3 does edge it out at 283. For a 0 to 60, the Honda Accord can do that in 5.6 seconds. The Tesla Model 3, actually 5.3. And you mentioned if you do the performance version, it actually brings that down some. But 5.3.
Brings it down to low threes. You can see this is, and the reason this is because Tesla, they do slow them down, and it's got, I think I'm trying to remember, and I should know this. I think the Model 3 still has a 75 battery, but they limit what it can do performance-wise.
And then if we think about top speed, the Honda Accord goes 155 miles an hour. I've never actually seen a Honda Accord going down 155 miles an hour.
I don't know if their tires are even rated to go that fast.
And the Tesla tops out at 140 miles an hour. But again, when I look at these performance specs, they seem fairly comparable to me. It doesn't look like it's a landslide one way or the other.
So now it's probably going to fall to, and this is a financial discussion. Nobody is buying either one of these vehicles going, man, I can't wait to bury that speedometer to 140 miles per hour. Nobody's doing it. This is an efficiency purchase. You're a person that wants to get from point A to point B. You want to do it comfortably. You want to do it efficiently. You're not a flex person. This is a good decision maker just trying to figure out what's the right economic decision.
So let's look at the financial impact. Is a Tesla, in fact, cheaper than a Honda Accord if you compare the first 5 years of ownership? Well, this is what we found. For initial cost, and remember, you have to pay cash for this one because if we're not going to be talking about luxury brands, it's okay to do $23,800 on this purchase. That's 20% down. Don't finance for any longer than 3 years, and don't let your payment exceed more than 8% of your gross income. So we just look at starting sticker. On the Honda Accord, it's about $32,000. The Tesla Model 3 short range is a little more expensive. It is about $39,000 out of the gate.
Now, I will tell you, when we did pre-show prep, you're like, that's a big deal,
Brian. That's a bit, when it comes to buying a car, when I think about spending 32 versus 39, that's pretty material to me. That seems like a big
So that might, in your head, if you have the needle going one way or the other, that difference right there is probably weighing pretty heavily on you.
But we know that when it comes to buying a car, it's not just about the initial purchase, it's about all the other things that come into it. So if we look at the maintenance and service costs, on the Honda Accord, it's about $4,300 over that 5-year period. The Tesla Model 3 comes in at just under $2,800.
And remember, we had to get aggressive with that. That's got multiple tire purchases.
Yep.
That's got lots of tire rotations. That's even got multiple sets of windshield wiper replacements. We try to throw the kitchen sink because there's really just not that much maintenance that goes into a Tesla. And by the way, Honda Accord's very efficient. That's not even that crazy of a number for them either.
And remember, when we compared to the BMW, we looked at gas costs. That's what a lot of people think about, is what are the fuel costs relative to electricity costs? That's where we think the savings will be. Well, Honda Accords are super fuel efficient, and they take lower level gasoline if you're going to fill them up. So for gas and electricity costs over the first 5 years, the Honda Accord comes in at $5,600, and the Tesla Model 3 comes in again right under $2,800.
And just to remind you, because I know we've already covered some of these numbers, what's great about the Honda is it doesn't require premium gasoline. So since the average cost per gallon is around $2.18 a gallon, the vehicle gets 29 miles per gallon is what it's rated at. So you can quickly do the math on that and figure out that it's going to be right at $1,127 a year, or $5,635 over the 5 years. And then when we talk about the Tesla, because both of these are rated at 15,000 miles a year, we want to do an apples to apples. It's costing approximately 4 cents a mile with the Tesla is how we got to that. So that's how it all worked out to do an apples to apples analysis.
So if we look at the total initial cost of ownership to buy the Honda Accord EXL, it's about $42,000 over that 5-year period. The Tesla Model 3 comes in at about $45,000. So it is a little more expensive to buy the Model 3 than to buy the Honda Accord. Okay.
Yeah, well, but it made some ground up on the cost of, fuel or electricity. It made up some on the maintenance, but still the Honda Accord is looking really strong in the fact that it didn't require a lot of money just to get into the vehicle.
That's right. So we know that initial cost is only one piece of it. We want to think about, well, which one of these cars holds their value well? So if we look at the total cost of ownership, we also have to think about the cost of resale. So if we think about the Honda Accord, which is known as a car that generally holds its resale value very well, you can resell it in 5 years for $17,468. So if you look at that, the total cost of ownership over that 5-year period is a little over $24,000.
All right.
Well, the Tesla Model 3 we've already talked about retains about 55% of its initial value, so it's going to have about a $21,000 resale value, so a little bit stronger than that of the Honda Accord, for a total cost of ownership over the first 5 years of right at $24,000. In our analysis, it's about a $400 difference between the two.
So I got to tell you, this blew my mind a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Now, because it does make you think, is Tesla the brand that we could recommend that you could finance, that it's not a luxury brand if you're buying like the short range edition, the entry level edition? This makes you think. I will tell you, though, I think I'm still, if I was putting the needle on a decision point, I'm not willing to change my rules on Tesla being a luxury brand
car, yeah.
And the big driving factor on that is the fact that it still has a purchase price that is substantially, I think it was close to $8,000 initial out-of-pocket amount of money. I know it makes it back in fuel costs as well as maintenance or electricity. I know everybody's going who's in EV industry, they'll be like, why is he saying fuel? The cost of running the vehicle, yes, there's areas to make it up, but it's a great opportunity in the fact that they're making progress. I mean, because here's the thing. 6 months ago, this wasn't even close because Tesla dropped the price $2,000 recently. So this thing is getting better. I will tell you, so there's a reason the average age is 46. I think a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, this is pretty compelling, but I don't know. I mean, I hate to give a recommendation on that.
Well, this is what I think is going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the conversation changes over time. If I personally were in the market for a sedan right now and I was thinking, okay, perhaps I want to buy the Honda Accord or the Toyota Camry or maybe the luxury automobile, Tesla Model 3 will be right there in the conversation for me. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting when the Model Y comes out and you start thinking about folks who like to drive SUVs, like to have more space. It's going to be a really interesting decision to make. So I think one of the things to be valuable are what are some of the things that could change that might end up shifting the conversation over?